And so, the moment of truth has arrived. Just as it did back in 1971, in his album Hunky Dory, Bowie faces an existential crisis, and has to solve it. In 1971, the crisis was that everyday life in Western bourgeois society seemed meaningless, and all the solutions presented by youth culture and rock and roll seemed to have come to a dead end. In Life on Mars, Bowie dramatized this situation, professing a wish to escape this world into a different world, but not knowing how to achieve it. In Quicksand, he enhanced the problem, describing the human race as possessing the potential to live the heroic life of a Superman but stuck in a mundane existence, and declared that his awareness of this discrepancy drives him to despair. But in Changes, he presented the solution. It is possible to live a different and heroic kind of life if you completely transform yourself, because in the transformation you put yourself in a place that is beyond the known world and achieve a transcendent, elated feeling. This feeling doesn't last long, as your new identity is eventually incorporated by the system and becomes just one more identity among others, but at that point you can transform yourself again. Thus, you keep on changing and keep on living a heroic life. The closing track of the album, The Bewley Brothers, ends with the lines, "Please come away, just for the day," as he beckons us to transform with him and join him in that wondrous place outside of everything. And transform he did, taking his fans on a fantastic voyage. Every elated state, as he warned, was just for the day, that is, only temporary, but he could always find a new transformation once the old one ran its course, so he could hope he can continue to do that forever and ever. However, throughout this process of constant changes, a few hitches in this lifestyle presented themselves, and by now they were so blatant they could not be ignored. The moment has come for Bowie to solve these problems, or admit that he took a wrong and destructive path. The first problem is that it seems this way of life has nowhere to turn to any longer. To be able to transform and achieve an elated state, you have to fuse the elements of your own culture with elements of a culture that is alien to it, and for a while, Bowie always found an alien to fuse with, but now he seemed to be running out. In Station to Station, he sang that there were no longer sunbursts to soar with, and thus his life of changes now seemed like moving around on a plateau, meaninglessly traveling from station to station, not like a joyous existence of climbing one mountain after another. The punk rebellion of 1977 adopted Bowie's suggestion of fusing with aliens, but that meant that it all at once turned all the aliens into part of our world, and denied youth culture the possibility to find any aliens in the future. Or so it seemed, at least. To save youth culture, Bowie has to find a way to ensure that there will always be aliens to fuse and soar with. The second problem is the contradiction between his wish to be part of a happy community on one hand, and his wish to live a life of an ever-changing Superman on the other, as the latter meant that he had to constantly break away from relationships and form new ones. In his albums Aladdin Sane and Diamond Dogs, he spoke of the unsatisfactory nature of love that is only temporary, and tracks like Sweet Thing expressed his feeling that he was once again driving himself into meaninglessness, with a string of meaningless relationships. From Young Americans onward, he disavowed the Superman dream, and expressed his growing wish to become part of human society and part of a long-lasting relationship, but that left him with the question of how to live a heroic life. The lifestyle of changes, when stripped from the Superman dream, felt like nothing more than meaningless travel from station to station. Since the youth was looking to him to provide a heroic form of existence, he needed to find a way to combine heroism with a life that is committed to human society and meaningful relationships. More seriously, the changes lifestyle introduced grave ethical problems. The counterculture of the 60s believed that human nature is essentially good, and that rock and roll music represents this nature in its pureness, and consequently that rock's rebellion and shattering of old social rules and norms would lead to a better world. Bowie had a darker view of human nature, but he still felt that youth rebellion is a good thing, and thus that his constant changing and breaking of norms was morally safe. Now, however, he realized that making transformation into something new into the sole ethical criterion meant that everything was allowed, and the dark sides of the human psyche could run rampant. The punk rebellion presented rebellion and change for the sake of rebellion and change, with no ethical boundaries, and the skinheads on the far right exploited this freedom to promote and do bad things. In Beauty and the Beast, Bowie acknowledges that human nature has good and bad wrapped together in a way that cannot be decoupled, and that therefore we are always in danger from the beastly side of humanity. If he wants to save his change his lifestyle, he must set ethical boundaries for it. There are other dangers, too. In Diamond Dogs, Bowie expresses the feeling that there are strong powers ruling our society that would like to become even more powerful and turn it into a dictatorship, and that the rock and roll rebellion does not weaken but rather strengthens them. When nothing is sacred anymore, there is nothing to hold these powers back. Every rock and roll rebellion expresses something that these powers don't yet own, but once it is expressed, it is then incorporated by them, and becomes another layer of their emerging totalitarian system. In the years 1974-76, Bowie was warning against an imminent fascist takeover of the West. He must now provide an answer to this danger as well. Under all these pressures, Bowie escaped into the contemplative mood of Low, and relocated to the isolated West Berlin to put his life and thoughts in order. In Berlin, he tried to live like a regular person, and discovered that his life isn't so boring and meaningless as he once thought. Records such as Lust for Life and Joe the Lion show his newfound appreciation of the simple joys of human existence, and his realization that there's no need to escape society in order to be heroic. His new ethics of heroism, then, should be based on the affirmation of daily life inside bourgeois human society. It is this realization that opened the way to heroes. The inspiration for the record, conveyed Bowie over the years, came from several sources. One day, as he was recording in the Hansa Studios in Berlin, he looked outside the window and saw two lovers kissing near the Berlin Wall, and this juxtaposition between an image of human love against a background of human hate touched him, and inspired him to write a song that would dramatize this scene. Another inspiration was a painting that hung in the Bruck Museum in Berlin, Lovers Between Garden Walls by Otto Müller, a 1916 work that depicted two lovers embracing in a garden between two stone walls. Considering the time it was painted, we can assume that the lovers are using this place to temporarily be in their own world, and forget about the Great War taking place on the other side of each wall. The resemblance between that painting and the contemporary lovers by the wall scene he witnessed with his own eyes suggested to Bowie that this is the human condition. Lastly, he was also inspired by a story conveyed to him by Iggy Pop, who went out to watch a punk concert in Berlin, in which they built a replica of the Berlin Wall and then tore it down. When this happened, relayed Iggy, the seemingly cynical punks all participated in the smashing of the wall, and then broke down in tears. All these sources came together in Bowie's mind to create one of his greatest records, one of the greatest pop records of all time.
Just for one day, we can be heroes. Just for one day.
The opening is based on the old English folk song Lavender's Blue, which opens with Lavender's blue, dilly dilly, lavender's green. When I am king, dilly dilly, you shall be queen. In the song, a boy and a girl are promising each other love and happiness, and that they will live as royalty if only they are together. At one point, the boy is singing, "We shall be safe, dilly dilly, out of harm's way," promising her that his love will shield her. The boy in Bowie's song is referencing Lavender's Blue, but he does so with a heavy sense of irony. Saying those words as he stands by the Berlin Wall, he knows that he cannot promise her safety, because nothing will drive them away. The bad powers that affect our lives will always be there, and will always try to build walls between us, and prevent us from coming together. All we can do is have this moment of love, and be heroes who momentarily overcome these forces. As usual with Bowie, he uses the term just one day to signify this temporary moment, although in reality they usually last longer than that. This moment of love will last just for one day, before the bad powers find a way to incorporate the pure thing we made and use it to spread more hate. But at least we will have this moment. The presence of the wall is represented by an immense wall of sound, masterfully created by Eno's synthesizers and Fripp's guitar. Bowie's voice struggles to be heard and not be completely suppressed by this dehumanizing barrage, but it sounds hesitant and unsure. When the boy goes into the "we can be heroes" part, his voice gains more confidence and manages to overcome the wall, but it is only momentary, and the wall of sound soon drowns him again. The wall, it seems, will always be there, and we can never defeat it completely.
We're lovers, and that is a fact. Yes, we're lovers, and that is that. Though nothing will keep us together, we could still die just for one day. We can be heroes forever and ever. What you say?
But it's not only external powers that doom us. Once again, as he did in all his previous albums, Bowie reminds us that love doesn't last. The fact that we love each other doesn't mean that we are soulmates who will forever be united. It means no more than we are lovers, and that is that. Once the initial infatuation is over, we might discover that a lover is mean, or an alcoholic, or many other bad things that will tear us apart. There is nothing that will keep us together and make us lovers forever. There is no hope for eternal unity and happiness. However, he says that we can be heroes forever and ever, because this act of consummating our love against these odds is an act of heroism, whose memory will last forever. Once again, his voice gains strength as he sings of heroism, and once again it is then buried under the icy front created by Fripp and Eno. The boy, however, does not give up, and beats his heart against the wall yet again.
I wish you could swim like dolphins can swim. Though nothing will keep us together. We can beat them forever and ever. Oh, we can be heroes just for one day.
This passage is inspired by a short story called The Grave for a Dolphin by Alberto Denti di Piranio. It is a story of a World War II Italian soldier serving in Africa who falls in love with a local Somali girl, a love that is doomed because they come from different worlds. The soldier is a great swimmer, but he is amazed to find that she swims even better than him, suggesting that she is a supernatural being. The fate of the girl is somehow tied to a dolphin she swims with, and when she suddenly dies, he finds the dolphin mortally wounded. The boy evokes this story, comparing his girl with the heroine who could swim like a dolphin, manifesting his realization that their love is equally doomed. But then, his voice gains strength again, and this time it sounds like it is not going to back down. Because in the pits of despair, in this moment of total hopelessness, Bowie realizes that he has found the way out. Because if there will always be forces that will build walls between us, then it also means that there will always be people who are alien to us, the people on the other side of the wall. Which means, of course, that the Cha-Cha-Cha-Change's lifestyle can go on forever. The criterion he was looking for, the criterion that will set ethical boundaries and ensure that we can go on changing and living a heroic life, is thus discovered. Commitment to our right to love each other. If we remain committed to love, if we keep on believing in the right of couples to love each other even as others regard them as aliens who shouldn't be together, then there will always be walls facing us, and we can always be heroes who tear down these walls. The triumph of tearing down a wall will last only a short while before a new wall will be built, but then we can tear that wall down as well, and keep beating those evil forces. And so, our heroic act may last just for one day, but on the next day we can be heroes again, and again, and again, eventually living a heroic life forever and ever. And with this realization, Bowie manages to pull himself out of the crisis, and his voice soars and breaks through the wall, through the despair, through the violence and hatred of 1977, to bring back love and hope. This time, he really means it. Although the title of the records is Heroes in inverted commas, as if it is an ironic title, the irony is not what we think it is. The heroes of the record do not live a heroic life according to traditional standards of heroism, but merely do the most mundane thing of being a loving couple. So we might think that the inverted commas are meant to mock the presumption of heroism. But actually, Bowie's ironic knife is cutting in the other direction, at our traditional notion of heroism. The heroes of this record are real heroes, while the world around them is the thing that is put in inverted commas. The people that we traditionally defined as heroes, those who fight grand wars and kill their enemies, are not the real heroes. Real heroism is facing up to a world where love cannot last, and keeping on believing in love, and keeping on loving in spite of it. We don't need any grand ideologies in order to be heroes. We only have to remain true to the idea that lovers should be together, and against any ideology that tries to break them apart. If we're lovers, and that is a fact, then we know that the way to be true to ourselves is to consummate this love, and be us just for one day. And when we do that in spite of the wall, then we are truly king and queen, truly heroes. The boy now goes back and remembers one of these moments of heroism, when he and his lovers united in a kiss in spite of the war, in spite of people shooting at each other above their heads. They knew their love was bound to fall, but they acted as if it wouldn't, because all that mattered was this moment of happiness. And at that moment, he knew that he was totally in the right, and the ones denying them were in the wrong, and the shame was all on them. And so, Bowie finds the ethical criterion to tell the beauty from the beast. If we do a transformation in the name of love and compassion to our fellow humans, then we can be sure that our transformation is for the good. And it also ensures that we will be able to keep on changing, and keep on being heroic and defeating evil, forever and ever.
We can be heroes. We can be heroes. We can be heroes. Just for one day. We can be heroes.
The wall of sound is still there, still trying to beat him down, but Bowie does not relent. His voice keeps piercing the wall, as he sings his anthem of heroism. The boy and girl have no power, but they can create their own little world in which she can make him feel like he is her king, and he can make her feel like she is his queen, and they can feel like heroes, just for one day.
We're nothing, and nothing will help us. Maybe we're lying, then you better not stay. When we could be safer, just for one day.
Finally, the moment is over, and self-doubt creeps back in. Cracks are beginning to appear in their love, and the boy no longer talks about love but about safety, taking us back to the language of Lavender's Blue. The day of triumph is over, and so is the record. But it doesn't matter. Today might be over, but tomorrow is another day. Bowie has found a way to be heroic even without being a Superman. There is an imperative that you should live by, and that is compassion for your fellow humans and belief in their right to live regular lives and be with those they love instead of sent to wars for some ideologies of grandeur or forced to participate in some totalitarian project. If you follow this imperative, then there will always be walls to tear down, and that promises that every transformation will be joyous and meaningful. In other words, if the come away just for a day of hunky-dory will be done in the name of fighting for humanity, then it ensures that we can be heroes, just for one day. And we can continue to change and be heroes, forever and ever.